Controlling light with surgical precision is often the difference between a good shot and a great one. Today we're evaluating the new projection attachment sent to us by DigitalFoto. Welcome to Behind the Floppy Flag. In this video I will demonstrate how this lens performs in real-world scenarios, specifically for product shots and creative portraits. Afterward, we'll examine the build quality and specs of the attachment to determine its value for your workflow. Let's begin. This setup is built on a foundation of cool blue tones and a contrasting orange line across the face. To create a large soft key light on the left of the model, I am bouncing an aperture 80C of the white window curtains. To extend this wrap and add light to the back of the model's face, I've added an Amaran P22C also bouncing into the curtain. Overhead, a second P22C provides a subtle hair light and fills the room with a blue ambience. The focal point of this shot is created by DigitalFoto projection attachment mounted on an Amaran 360C. Using a narrow slit Gobo, I've added a sharp vertical line of orange light across the model's face for a complementary color contrast. Let's look at the layers individually. Here's what the projection lens on Amaran 360C does. Here's the top light Amaran tube. Here's the second Amaran tube. And finally, aperture 80C serving as the key on the left side of the face. The second portrait setup is based on the complementary red and green colors. Behind the model, an Amaran 360C with a projection attachment is pointed directly at the wall to create a clean, uniform circle of light. I've positioned it directly behind the subject to maintain the circular shape. Tilting the lens up or down would turn the projection into an ellipse, which wasn't the look I was after. To the left of the model, I have an aperture 80C with a second projection lens shining into a small diffusion disc. While a standard reflector of Fresnel would work here, using the projection attachment allowed for more precise control over the spill. Let's carry on to some product shots. The main light streaks that are on this table are coming from this unit right here, Nanlite Forza 150D, that has this projection lens attached to it, and inside of it there is not one, but two filters, an orange one and a yellow one. The lens is focused on the table so that the projection looks sharp with very distinct edges. One thing I like doing when working on this kind of shots is limiting my projection to only what I see in the frame. So if I don't see this part of the image in the frame, I like just cutting it with shutters so that there is no stray reflections anywhere in the room. This is particularly important if you're working with glass materials like bottles. There's another projection lens on this side that creates the secondary slit that we see in the background of the image. The width of the beam is adjusted using these shutters here. Here's another colorful little setup. Here I have three lights. Amaran 200X that's creating this background pattern. Another light is this Aperture Storm 80C that is also attached to a projection lens, and it's shining behind this bottle, creating this glow. And the last light I have in this setup is this little Amaran PT2C tube, placed in front and to the left of the bottle to give it a little more brightness on the front side and on the logo. So I'm inside this Link app and I can adjust colors like so. Here's the product, the lens and everything that it is supplied with. 30 Gobos, 5 color filters, a Gobo holder and 4 shutters. Now let's take a look at the optical snoot itself. Here it is. It fits standard bounce mount fixtures of up to 500 watts of power, although it states that 500 watt fixtures shouldn't be at full output. So personally I wouldn't use it on anything more powerful than 300 to 400 watts just to be safe. The back of the unit, the bounce mount attachment itself, is made out of plastic, while the rest of the lens is all metal except for this rubberized focus ring in the front. This ring has very nice and smooth feel to it. It allows to very precisely adjust focus. It's much better than conventional lenses that have this little bolt which you need to unscrew and then slide the focusing mechanism back and forth. Having this rotating mechanism makes a big difference. It's much smoother and easier to fine-tune focus with something like this. At the front of the lens we have this metal ring, and this metal ring is magnetically attached to the front, and this is where you attach those included color filters. If you're like me and you have a bunch of these pre-cut filters from previous jobs, you can actually slap them on top and put a magnetic ring on top of it. It will not be as secure as the ones that are pre-cut because it doesn't quite fit in, but it will hold the filter in place, at least if you're not planning to move your light too much or shake it. If we take a look at the middle section of the lens, there is this little knob. If you unscrew this, you can rotate the whole barrel of the lens. And this is super useful because this allows you to have your gobo inside, and then if you need to change orientation of your projection, you simply rotate this piece and the projection rotates as well. You have to be a bit careful because if you unscrew this too much, then there's nothing holding the two pieces together and at some point they will simply come off. On the other hand, this provides a nice way of transportation, so you can have these two pieces and put them in some smaller bag than you would need for something like a fully assembled lens. Now let's see how gobo holder slides in. So it has these magnets and there's a metal piece inside that accepts them. So once you slide it in, it magnetically attaches to the metal element inside, and then you can additionally rotate your projection like this. This same slot is what accepts shutter blades. So you don't need to insert all of them at all times. If you only need 2 shutters, for example, in your particular use case, you can just have it like this. Gobos come in this handy little case. As you can see, there are all the usual suspects. So you have your abstract shapes and Cucalori style, some geometric shapes, some odd-looking ones, all sorts of windows. There's no iris option available for this projection lens, so instead we have these 3 rings that basically allow you to create a projection of a smaller size. Here's how it looks. The smallest one, middle size one, and the largest one. If you wish, you can mix those with other gobos, like I'm using this striped one with the middle size iris one, put them inside together, and we're getting the same kind of shape, but now it's limited to a much smaller circle. This is what a gobo holder looks like. It's just a plastic unit that consists of these 2 pieces that are magnetically attached together, and they hold a gobo inside, like so. It also serves to hold your shutters, like so, inside of the lens. There are 5 color filters that are attached to the front of the lens using a magnetic clip. Note how the image becomes a lot darker. This kind of strong filters like deep blue, deep red and deep green will take away a lot of output. So if you need something like this, it's better to use a colored fixture. Right now my Panasonic S5 IIX displays 15 IRE in the center of this image. Let's compare it to Aperture ATC, and I'm getting 21% IRE in the center of a red circle. So 200x at full power was giving me 15, and 80 at full power running from a simple V-mount battery gives me 21. So it's more brightness and better color control since it's not a filter, but a proper full color LED light. So color filters are a nice addition, but if you plan to use color in your image, just use a color fixture. Let me demonstrate the fixture mounted to Amaran 200X here. It is an older kind of light fixture that has a stripped pattern of this LED board. Here's what it looks like. And when you mount an optical snoot onto a light unit like this, here's what you can see. The fixture is currently at 6500 Kelvin and 20%, and take a look at this upper portion of the image. You can kind of see the stripped patterns here, where cooler light is mixed in with these warmer bands. The same thing at the lower part of the image here. This is because you're basically getting a projection of these stripped LEDs on board of this light unit. So if I put my hand in front of the projection and try to move it a little bit, you can clearly see this stripped pattern on the projection. This particular unit displays a lot less of this unwanted effect if I dial the temperature all the way down to 2700 Kelvin. So I'd recommend using this kind of optical snoots with newer kinds of LEDs that have this diffusion glass element in front of LEDs that helps to spread out the light and doesn't create this striped effect. While we're here, let me demonstrate some of the interesting gobos that are included in the kit. An interesting looking stripes pattern. Next we have a few variations of slits and lines, a very narrow single line, and a rectangular shape, a triangle. Having the ability to mix different gobos together, which not all projection mounts allow, gives you more creative control. For example, if we are using this tree gobo and combine it with this like window shape, we can create a window shape with trees. You have a very nice defined window shape and inside something that looks like a tree branch. Here's another example. This is another window gobo, and I'll combine it with this abstract looking shape. Again, we get this abstract shape that is limited into the shape of a window. Might look interesting and pleasing for your image. While we're on the topic of creative little tricks, let me do one more. So this is a very basic and standard looking shape. If I then take a little piece of 1/4 diffusion and feed it into the same slot as my gobo, here's the kind of an effect I can get. It becomes kind of creamy, looking a little like what you can get when using Pro Mist filter. And in my opinion, it gives a lot of additional visual interest to whatever you're projecting. One thing to note when using this projection lens with smaller lights like this aperture ATC. As you can see, the edges of our frame become very uneven, and if you take a closer look, you can see a lot of bending here as well. So the LED board itself is not inside of the projection lens, and so the projection circle doesn't look ideal. But using a fixture like that is possible because we have this small Iris Gobo. I can just put it inside. It does make my projection smaller, but the image looks very nice and sharp throughout the circle. Think of this as applying a crop factor to your projection lens. Let's talk about Photometrics and see how this optical snoot affects the output of a light fixture. I have it mounted to an Amaran 360C and it's about 2 meters from the wall. Let's see the reading we're getting. My camera shows that the center of the image circle is at 90 IRE, and let's see what the light meter tells us. We are at f4.5 in the center of the image. Let's take the snoot off the fixture and see the readings we can get. The camera still shows 90 in the same spot, and the light meter shows f4.6. So no change at all. Now let's take a look at the supplied reflector. This thing obviously increases the output. The camera now shows 106 IRE and also clipping, and the light meter shows f56.8. So a little more than one stop added, or 2 times the brightness. If you take a closer look at the image circle, you can see that it's not evenly lit. The center point is much brighter than the outside. The reading with my camera shows 90 IRE in the center of the circle and about 57 at its edge. And roughly in between I'm getting 85. Let's repeat the measurement with our light meter. So we are at f4.7 in the center of our circle, and the corner is f2.9. So there's a very clear hot spot. There is 2 stops brighter than the edges of an image circle. So, after using this attachment for a while, I think there are a few things that make it particularly practical. First, it's relatively compact and lightweight. I also really like how easy it is to adjust the orientation of the projection, which makes fine-tuning much faster. The lens is also very easy to focus, and the ability to stack multiple gobos gives you a lot of creative possibilities. And you get a pretty good selection of gobos included, so you can experiment with different patterns without additional investments. So while an optical snoot is already a very versatile lighting tool in general, these details make this particular one especially easy to work with. And ultimately, that's what I like about it. It gives you a lot of control over the light without taking up a huge amount of space on your set. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!